All right. Welcome to another episode of Guaranteed News. I am your host, Garrett. As usual, if you're watching this, I appreciate it. You could be watching anything in the world and you're watching Guaranteed News. You see who's in the background. You see this headline. This video is going to be about Trump's announcement yesterday on Monday, August 11th, saying that he is going to take over control of the D.C. police and he is going to federalize the National Guard in an effort to fight crime in the nation's capital. Now, he said, again, this is to fight crime. On Monday, he said he's going to deploy approximately 800 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. and federalize the city's police in an effort to fight crime. When you walk down the street, you're going to see police or you're going to see FBI agents, Trump said during a press availability Monday morning. That's a good quote to me because it makes me believe, and I watched this whole thing, we're going to show some clips on it. It makes me believe that he really wanted to let you know that this is going to be something that is felt, which is one of the reason you should feel like this matters and why you should care about this story, because he's saying not only are we federalizing the police, we're sending out National Guard, but it's not going to be something that's small. This will be noticeable. This will be felt. And he said, we're going to have a lot of agents on the street. You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed. So he said military twice. He said maybe we'll bring them in, maybe not. If you listen to Trump speak for anything longer than 10 minutes, he messes up like that all the time. He doesn't even care about telling the truth, let alone messing up and stumbling on words, which, to be frank, I'm very harsh on Trump. I'll try to be less, give him credit where he needs it. I stumble over my words all the time. Okay. So this move marks a significant escalation in the president's attacks on the nation's capital. Trump on Sunday claimed the district was one of the most dangerous cities anywhere in the world, although the Justice Department said the crime rate fell to a 30-year low last year. And that crime rate falling is one of the big things with this. We'll get into this later in this video. But first, let's go into what initially started Trump to make this announcement to take control of the D.C. police office. So he's been talking about this for like 6 months, wanting to end crime in D.C. and wanting to end crime in America. It's one of the things he ran on. But there's a story that happened last week. This is a Truth Social post from Trump about a story that happened last week that first announced him or ramped up this conversation of him federalizing D.C. and taking over the police office. So we're going to look at this now. The law in D.C., we're going to start at like the middle. The law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors as adults and lock them up for a long time starting at age 14. The most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by local thugs. Washington, D.C. must be safe, clean, and beautiful for all Americans, and importantly for all the world to see. If D.C. doesn't get its act together and quickly, we will have no choice but to put criminals on notice that they are not going to get away with it anymore. Perhaps it should have been done a long time ago. Then this incredible young man and so many others would not have had to go through the horrors of violent crime. Basically what happened was, and this is a picture of the guy. This guy worked for Doge. I guess his nickname is Big Balls. I'm not joking. His name is Big Balls. That's his nickname. He was walking someone to the car where a group of teenagers, 14, 15, 16-year-old, Trump calls them thugs in the beginning of this, local youths and gang members. He put quotes on youths, but no quotes on gang members. So a little bit of some dog whistles going on if you can hear them. And there's going to be a part 2 to this that gets into that specifically, so that's why you should follow this channel as well. But Big Balls, he was walking someone to their car. I think it might have said it was his girlfriend. I don't know how important that is with that story, but he's walking to someone to the car. They try to mug him. He stands up for them, stops the mugging, and the police officers that were walking past see it, stop the whole thing. He got beat up, and this is a sad story of crime. And he's saying that this is a crime-infested, ridden place. People are scared, and the only way to fix this is for me to take over federal control over this. And this was posted on August 5th, so last week. Then yesterday on August 11th, he has this big press conference where he says and announces it. And today on Tuesday, they are officially there. Now let's look at a couple more things with this. The president also said he would declare a public safety emergency in D.C. and that Attorney General Pam Bondi would take command of the Metropolitan Police Department at this moment. Now let's look at a couple videos specifically from this. Let's look at this first one. And this is him kind of describing why we need to have a capital, which is Washington, D.C. We need to have a capital that is safe and represents America. So let's watch.
She used to tell me I had a wonderful father.
Yesterday, hold on, let me fix the sound on this. My bad, you guys. Let's see. All right, let's go. Let's start that over.
Said, my father always used to tell me I had a wonderful father, very smart. And he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in. Because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty, and they don't respect us. So it's a
Okay. So he's saying, saying if the first thing you see looks dirty, the whole country's going to get dirty, so we have to fix this. This is the guys that's under crime. Remember this. And remember, I'm going to tell you why you should care about this. If you're of the feeling, I live in Indiana, I live in Arizona, I live in Atlanta, why should I care about Trump federalizing DC? I promise I'm going to get to that. And I also want to just say there's been a lot of places that I've ate at that didn't look clean that were amazing, and that I went back a lot of times and would still go back to, but that's a different story for a different video. Now, with this, the D.C. mayor, Muriel Bowser, a Democrat, said she would comply with Trump's directive, which she called unsettling and unprecedented, okay? This is the mayor of D.C. We will follow the law, she told reporters after the president's announcement. I'm going to work every day to make sure it's not a complete disaster and get this so-called emergency put to an end. Now, here's a video of her talking about this,
that we experienced
the announcement that Trump made, and this is the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser.
It's a crime spike post-COVID. But we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off our streets and gave our police officers more tools, which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike. This year, crime isn't just down from 2023, it's also down from 2019, before the pandemic, and we're at a 30-year violent crime low.
So the conversation of crime, which is what this is all about, how Trump is able to say he can do this, or not he can, but why he's saying he is doing this is because crime is so bad in D.C. She's saying that crime is at a 30-year low. When I was watching it on MSNBC, if you know me, I have like the little 4 YouTube TV news channels. They were all playing them. MSNBC was showing like how while Trump was talking about how bad crime was, in the background, they had the crime statistics and how they were low for the last year or two. Looked into a little bit. It's a tad bit misleading just because she gets into this how bad crime was during COVID, first of all, and it took a major spike. So the low is being compared to pre-COVID numbers. But at the same time, it is true that numbers have gone down for the last 2 years and that they are fixing the problem. But there's also the conversation of how do the people in DC actually feel walking around, and maybe there is some belief or maybe there is some credibility to the fact that crime needs to be fixed. But it's with everything with Trump is how bad is it, and is the way or is the fixture that you're providing, is it necessary for what you're saying the problem is taking federal control of this place? It's the same thing with LA, where you had the mayor of LA, I can't think of her name, and then I think her name is Karen Bass. I could be definitely wrong. And then you have the governor of of California, Gavin Newsom, saying we do not need this, but Trump's sending in the National Guard anyways into Los Angeles. And it's the same thing with this, with the mayor and with numbers saying crime is down. This is a problem, but we're handling it. We don't need this, and Trump doing it anything anyway. And the same thing with these colleges, with Harvard, where Trump is saying, oh, the anti-Semitism, you guys got to do it. I say you can't speak about certain things. And the colleges are saying this is a problem. We are fixing it, but we don't need you to do what you're doing to take away funding and to hurt and potentially do this to all this people. And this is getting into the reason why you should care about this is because the federal control is a dangerous thing, because if you think he'll start with DC, there are definitely other cities that he can do this to, and he talks about this in this, maybe going to some Democratic-led cities. So we're in with that. But I want to talk about another thing too with this article, is that the whole January 6th conversation of what happened with January 6th and Trump sending no National Guard in that moment, where all those crazy Republicans, the MAGA cult, went and stormed the Capitol. DC delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, a Democrat, said in a statement that Trump's move were a historic assault on D.C. home rule, as well as counterproductive and escalatory. It does not escape me that President that the president is calling the National Guard on the pretext of a surge in crime that the numbers do not support, while he was nowhere to be found on the hours of January 6, 2021, as D.C. officials tried to get him to mobilize the DCNG as the U.S. Capitol was under siege, Norton added. Critics are quick to point out that while Trump has sought to make defending law enforcement a pillar of his second term, he pardoned hundreds of January 6 rioters, many of whom were convicted of attacking police officers. These were violent criminals, right? And then another thing that to talk about this, which I want to get into, is Trump saying that he can maybe do this for other places, other cities. Trump also said he might launch a similar effort in large Democratic-run cities, which will definitely be a part two of this. Let me go back to my headline, my bookmarks, my bad, which would definitely be a part two of this because, of course, he did this on Monday. Today, there's been a whole bunch of these cities, their people, and a whole bunch of political analysts talking about how this will not happen. Let's watch this video of him mentioning that a little bit.
We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quick.
So the reason you should care about this is because I was one of those people that back in November knew I wasn't going to vote for Trump, didn't like Trump, but I thought, he talks well. I see why people like him. He's funny. And when people would say he is a threat to democracy, I had some people there. I think they're still exaggerating with this. We're like, oh, he's going to try to run again. We're not going to vote. All of that, I think, well, the last part's an exaggeration, but the fact that he's a threat to democracy is not an exaggeration. And seeing him as president shows me that, like, you can break rules, like all the law and everything. For every law that says you can't do something, there's a law that allows you to do it. He announced this like Home something act to be able to even do this in DC and take federal control for 30 days. And then we're going to reevaluate after 30 days. The big thing with this is federal control over a city that you will be able to feel. And if you don't think he'll do this in other cities when he's saying that he maybe will, you're wrong. And you think he'll only do this in Democratic cities. The thing about Democratic or Republican cities and states, like where I live in Indiana, is he's saying we won't have to do them in these cities because they're going to just do it anyways. And what does that look like stopping crime? And he also said in this that the goal is for DC is to get rid of all crime. I've said on my stream, I've said on this channel, the way to restrict Americans, to give people less freedom, is to say that it is in the pretext or the context of safety. We're doing this to keep you safe. And I believe if you are an American, even if you feel like crime is bad in DC and that needs to be fixed, I don't think the answer to that should be having you walk down streets, how you to jog down streets. I saw videos of people jogging and you could see the police officers and National Guard right next to them. So that's going to be another thing I'm keeping a lick on is what are people that live there saying? Do they actually feel this? Do I see videos of them really walking around, or is it not that noticeable? But again, this definitely could happen all over the country. He's saying he's starting this, and this is a dangerous precedent, like suing colleges and taking away funding from national institutions, like taking away funding from countries that are impoverished, like things like USAID. But those things may not affect you immediately. This one could affect you in a year, 2 years. This needs to be looked at, and you need to hope he doesn't do this to any other city, because the thing about Trump is he always has a reason for what he's doing, a reason that he tells you, but the reason always feels like it's not as bad as the fix that he's giving. So we'll be keeping a look into this. It's been updating all day today, so make sure you subscribe to GS Studios to look at all the news that you need to know, things like this. We're going to be talking about the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire. Those are things I'm all interested in. And then also go to Twitch, follow my Twitch, GS Studios. That's GS Studios with 2 S's, and that's where we're going to be talking the news that you want to know. That's Garrett's Football Show. That's movie reviews. That's all of those things all of those things like that. Thank you for watching. You guys have a great rest of your day. Be safe and stay in the know. It's annoying, but it's important, I promise you.